Hello, welcome to section 7.7, simple and compound interest. This section is really one formula and then one way to use that formula to repeat things, and we'll talk about the second part of that in class actually. So this is going to be a nice short video, excuse me, on just simple interest. So in the past, we've already done problems with the percent equation. Now we're going to solve simple interest problems and apply the simple interest equation to real world problems, and then in class we'll solve compound interest problems. So for simple interest, okay, so simple interest, interest itself is the money, the amount of money paid or earned for the use of money by a bank or other financial institution. So for instance, when you put money into a bank, the bank, what they do, the bank says, okay, here's the bank. Okay, you go over there, you give them your money, okay? And then what the bank does is the bank says, okay, there are three people over here. This person wants to buy a house. This person wants to buy a car. This person just wants to maybe, I don't know, they're going to do, they're going to buy a boat. Okay. What the bank does is it then loans some of your money out to them. Now you don't realize this because you don't, it's not like all the money you put in the bank you pull back out the next day. You let it sit in there for a bit. And then what happens is when people take out a loan, they pay interest back to the bank on that loan, and then some of that interest the bank keeps, and then some of that interest the bank gives back to you. So if you have like a bank statement, and I don't know if you do or not yet, but if you have a bank statement, you'll see across the bottom of it, and on that statement, you'd have a bank statement, you'd see on that statement something like this, where they would tell you, you deposited a certain amount each month, and you'll see this little column for interest, and what's happened is the bank has taken the money you deposited, which is, $900, and even though it's your money, since you haven't pulled any of it out, the bank gives it out to somebody else. And then they pay you a little bit back for letting you use your money. Now, this is a ridiculously high interest amount. This is not even remotely real, but it's just something I could find online real quick. But that's how banks work. So the question becomes, how do they figure out this interest? Okay, well, on simple interest, okay, you have three things. You have I is the interest amount you're going to collect. P is the principal, which is the initial amount of money. R is the interest rate, and T is the time in years. And so here's in a simple way how it works. Okay. So let's say you have, I don't know, $500. And you're getting 3% interest on it. All you're really doing is you're finding 3% of 500. That's all they're saying to do. So find, sorry, let me see if I can clean that up a little bit. That's better. So find 3% of $500. Well, if you go to the percent equation, part equals percent times whole. What's our percent? 3%, which is 0.03 as a decimal. What's our whole amount? That's that $500 we have in there. And you multiply that out, and that gives you then $15. No. Yeah, $15. Okay. So they would pay you $15 then. Now this part here is actually interest, but it's for 1 year or one time. So if I wanted to know for like 7 years, what I would do then is say, okay, once I got $15, multiply it by 7, and that would give me 70 plus 35 would give me $105. Okay. So how simple interest works, I should have given myself a different sheet of paper, is that what we do is, to get the interest, okay, it was the amount of money times the percent, so we call it principal times the percent times how many times oops, sorry, I'm off the screen here, times, so percent times amount times number of years. And since this was 7 years, that's not a decimal point, 7. It was 105, so times number of years. Okay. Now that's the kind of generic blanket way to do it. Here's the formula. Or interest equals principal times percent times time, or PRT, where I is the interest, principal is the starting amount, P is the percent as a decimal, T is the time in years. Okay. So for this one here, oh wow, I just made this up. The $500 must have been stuck in my brain. But find simple interest for $500 invested at 3.2% for 5 years. So interest equals P times R times T. $500 is the initial amount. 3.2% is 0.032 as a decimal. 5 years is T is 5. Multiply that all out. $80 is what will be earned. All right, so first example then. $300 at 8% for 4 years. Well, interest, we don't know. Principal is the $300. I'll have to, sorry, lowercase p. The rate is 8%, which is 0.08 as a decimal. Time is 4 years. So interest equals principal times percent times the time. Sure. And that's it. And then you just get your calculator out. So we definitely use a calculator on this. 300 times 0.08 times 4. So $96. That's it. Okay, so for this example here then, this is where things get a little more difficult, because if I go to just jump into this problem, again, we always identify I equals PRT. Interest we don't know. Principal is the it's $1,225 at 6.25% for 18 months. So $1,225. Rate equals 6.25%, which is equal to 0.0625. And then here's where it gets tricky at. This is 18 months. The problem is if I go back for this problem, time has to be in years, not months. So we got to sort out, well, if that's 18 months, how many years is that? Well, that's where knowing that there are 12 months in a year, so I'll divide 18 by 12 and get 1.5 years. Come on, type. So interest equals 1225 times 0.0625 times 1.5. And again, then we get out our calculator. 1225 times 0.0625 times 1.5. Which, as you can see, doesn't work out perfectly, so the bank could have to round. And it's $114.84. They'll round down in that case. No, sorry, 114. So that's what you'd earn in interest. Okay, so for this one here, I'm going to have it stop and ask at every step. Okay, so let's set some stuff up here. Principal is going to be, hopefully you said $820. Rate, hopefully you said 0.06 because it's 6%. And then the time is 6 months. But again, it has to be in terms of years, so 6 months is 1/2 a year, or 0.5 years. Okay, so interest equals, and then hopefully you said for the equation 8.20 times 0.06 times 0.5. And we're not going to get a lot of this because it's only for half a year. So $24.60. Now our last example here, this is really kind of oversimplified, to be honest. When you have a car payment, it's actually more complicated than this, but this is the basic idea. So whenever you buy a car, you pay it off monthly, so it talks about length of car being month. So Cody borrowed $1,500 to buy a used car. He'll be paying back the money at a rate of 12% over the next 60 months. 12% is a pretty high interest rate to pay on your car. Hopefully you never have to pay that high. But I know on used cars and stuff, it can be sometimes a little different. But 12% over the next 60 months. Found the amount of interest he'll be paying on his loan. Okay. So again, setting this up, our principal is the amount we're going to borrow, which is $1,500. Our rate is the 12%, which is 0.12. Our time is 60 months, which is, this is a pretty common length of a car loan, is 60 months. But again, it has to be in terms of years. So 60 divided by 12, 5 years. So our interest is going to be 1,500 times 12% times 5. So again, get out our handy dandy calculator. Not minus. Clear. 1,500 times 0.12 times 5. What happened? It's 900. Now, what this means for us if you're taking out a loan is you already owed them the $1,500. But you're also going to have to add on the $900 of interest. That's how loans work if you take one out. So that $1,500 you had to take out to buy the car, over the course of 5 years, you would roughly pay $900 in interest on it. So you would actually end up paying back $2,400 to the bank. So again, you ask, like, how does a bank make money? Well, that's how the bank makes money. It loans you $1,500. It charges you interest, getting back $900 in this case. So it made its $1,500 back. It earned $900 on you. That's how it makes its money. And then if you have an account there, the bank shares some of that $900 with you. Okay, so in class we'll do some examples of this, run through a few, and then talk about something called compound interest. So answer the questions here at the end, and I'll see you in class tomorrow. Thanks.